Hi there everyone. I've been trying of late to find tutorials on dust clouds that basically come out from objects that have been dropped, heavy objects that have been dropped onto the ground, and doesn't seem to be anything really on the internet. So I thought I'd put a quick one together for you today, and this is the effect that we're basically looking at. Um, very quick, so you can see particles as soon as it hits the ground. Particles just um, really jump off the ground, rise up, and then move away from the object and disappear. So I'll show you the setup that I've got here. We've got a ground plane, so you set up a ground plane. I've got the cube, of course, that all I've done is we'll just move out a wee bit so you can see. Maybe go to the front view. So that simply just hits the ground, and where it hits the ground, you've got to set up on that frame. You've got to set up your particle system explosion or emission. So we'll go in again, and I'll show you how I did that. If we go into wireframe, I've put a little another little plane in here, and you can see that I've subdivided a few times just to give it a few more particles to shoot off the faces. And then what I've also done is that you'll notice that it travels with the thing that it's impacting with, and I just find that's a wee bit easier if you've got a whole lot of objects dropping and they've all got their own particle systems. It's much easier, I find, to link them together rather than have them scattered all over your plane area, or even have vertex maps on your plane area. Excuse me. So I've animated that basically to come down. I'll show you, to come down with um, the cube, and then as soon as it hits the point where it impacts, I've come up closer, where it impacts, the very next frame, so it's hiding under the cube, the very next frame I've expanded it so it's just sitting beyond the sides of the cube all round, and then bang. Now the particle system itself, if we go to our particles button here on the left, you can see I've used, the amount is 400 particles. It starts at frame 25, ends at frame 26, because we only want a single shot to come out. I've got a lifetime of 20. Now we need to keep it down fairly low because it's dust, and dust sort of dissipates. It just doesn't go on and on and on. I've got a random value of 0.5, around about 0.5, so it's just not too uniform. It emits from the faces. It's random, and here it's random as well. Moving down, I've got a velocity of 3 off the normal. The tangent is 2, and everything else in the velocity panel is 0. For rotation, I've clicked dynamic, off the normal, random 0.5. These are all really just experimental, so the more you sort of mess around the values, obviously the more you can customize it to the exact look you want. I've got a spin value here of 10. Moving down to the physics, Newtonian of course, size of about 0.5 and random of 0.5, because we don't want them all to be the same size obviously. And moving down here, now I've clicked emitter. Now you'll have halo by default. We don't want halo. What I've done is I've created a group which is these two objects here. So if we go to here, and these are out of the field of view, you can hit M and put them on their own layer if you want. I've just put them out of the field of view of the camera. Basically a cube and a sphere that I've pulled out of shape so they're not too uniform, and then selected both of them, gone to Object, Group, and Create New Group. Is all there is to that. And so if I was to select that again, I click on Group, and these two are called Group. Very creative name, I know. You can also have children, but this will greatly increase your render time, because obviously there's more particles in the scene. But it could be quite cool in terms of just dust and bits of rock or whatever flying out. The other thing that we need to do is to create a material, which I've done here. It's simply the standard default that comes up with the diffuse. I've switched off specularity because we don't want highlights in the dust particle. Transparency, obviously dust is slightly transparent, so I've set that to ray trace. 0.5 alpha, no specular, and a Fresnel of 0.3, and a bit of a blend of 0.5. And then if we go back to our particles tab, you can see in here the render. It tells you what material. Mine's material 02, so material 2 is what it's set to. Now it's not applied to the particle system, it is actually applied to these two objects here. So you will see when I click on them and click the material, it's actually applied to these two, and then these two are applied to the particle system. So that's really all there is to it. Oh yes, one last thing is click on your plane and click the physics tab, and you want to set that to collision in case there's any sort of lingering pieces of dust or debris that fly out and don't last the whole last a longer length than the rest of the objects in your particle system, and then they won't penetrate through the floor. They'll just bounce and or slide along the ground. And that I haven't changed any of these settings, but obviously you can play with those as well. If you click on kill particles, as soon as they contact the collision plane, they will disappear, they will die. You've got soft body and all sorts of great things in here, stickiness and things to mess around with, and that's all there is to it. And so you can render it out, and you will get this great result. Have fun.